ACC McLean County Community Spotlight.
We're not saying Brevant Seeds could beat every seed brand out there. We're just saying that a new way of doing things backed by constant innovation, over 100 years of ag experience, science and service, one of the world's largest libraries of corn germplasm, and utilizing the expertise that can only come from local ag retail has led Brevant Seeds to average more bushels per acre than the competition every year we've sold seed. That's all. Bucking the status quo. That's the Brevant Seeds standard.
CEO Paul Scarron here from Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. Our trained physical therapists offer quality, compassionate care close to home. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
For the latest in Central Illinois agricultural news, visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Get updated information on markets, weather, ag news, local interviews with NAFB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show is Mr. Dan Matthews. He is the board president for the DeWitt County Board. Mr. Matthews, a good Friday to you, sir. How are you today?
Doing well, Seth. Good morning to you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and talking with us and following up the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting. We always appreciate you making time for us on these Fridays. And let's start things out, Mr. Matthews, with the animal control facility, because that has been a hot topic in our county for a couple of months now. As you know, you see some turnover there for the last year or so, trying to find some stability. Looks like a move towards stability from Thursday night. What do we know?
Yes, we did appoint Tony Harris as the animal control administrator now, and we are excited about that. Tony has a lot of experience with the shelter already, and as you mentioned, it's been a kind of a rocky 9 months or so here as we've been trying to fill the position out there and make some changes, improvements to the building, and Tony's actually been a big part of that. He's volunteered a lot of his time already, but more importantly, I think his relationships with Sheriff Walker and his team, as well as Chief Lowers and his guys. Tony's already familiar with how the call system works and evaluating the type of calls that are coming in that his group has been taking for, years. And so it's going to be a great addition, and he has a passion for the animal shelter. So something that kind of just came about as we did interviews. We weren't finding the right person that had that kind of knowledge and that kind of understanding of what some of the ordinances and what kind of calls do you take, and Tony stepped forward with a proposal, and it was one we were glad to accept and be able to make it work out so that we could get him on board, and so he'll be starting that right away.
Very good. So how will that Mr. Matthews impact his role as the 911 coordinator?
Well, Tony will continue to do all of the duties he has today. This will be a part-time position where he'll spend an hour or two, maybe at the beginning of the day at the shelter, and then again maybe at the end of the day. But throughout the day, again, his group's taking calls, so he's going to be able to see what's going on, what calls may be coming in. But more importantly, now we'll have Tony be able to do the hiring of what we're going to call an animal warden, and then any other support staff he needs out there. So it'll kind of coincide with what he's doing now. Tony was doing a little bit of zoning work for us, so he won't be doing that anymore. And along with his current role there at the county, so this fits in very well and really solves a big issue for us as well.
Yeah, some folks out there, Dan, may say that this is going to be too much. That one side or the other is going to kind of get the short end of the stick in terms of his attention. There's only so much so many hours in the day, and maybe it's going to require overtime. Which can the county afford that? There's a lot of different ways you could go for those that may not like this move or may question this move. How about some of those concerns?
I think those are legitimate concerns, and I think when you hire somebody of Tony's character, I'm not going to be worried that he's not able to handle it and hide that from us. I think if he thinks it's too much, he will let us know. He does a great job at the 911 and all the things he does with that group. And I think if he felt in any way that it was hurting that, he would let us know, hey guys, this part-time position's too much. And you talked about the overtime. It's going to really depend on how he is able to get the right people hired out there, and that's really what we need. The people that are the warden, the people that are out there cleaning, taking care of the animals. Those are really the people that would be working on the potentially overtime or taking call. The animal warden taking calls 24 hours a day, or at least being on call. But I don't think it will require Tony himself to really take hours away from his current position. I think it fits very well with it, and really just will supplement what we're doing and really save us money. We had initially approved a salary for administrator of around $41,000. Tony is half of that much as a part-time. So really, I think financially it benefits us in the long run.
Now, will you look to him to kind of hire his own people out there and just kind of get approval from the board on that? How will that process work?
Really, it will be up to him. I mean, that is his responsibility as the administrator, is for him to do his own hiring. We really would like to not be involved, let him choose the people that he wants, that he thinks fits the role. And because I think he has a good understanding of what's needed out there, because he has been so involved, that he's really the best person to choose that staff out there and then manage them. We don't want to manage them. None of us on the board want to. We've had some board members that have spent a lot of time out there, a lot of their personal time, and have taken a lot of their vacation days to work at the shelter, and they are definitely ready to turn it over to somebody that's as capable as Tony to run that for us and let us step out of that role and really not be involved unless he needs something.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Matthews, just your perspective on this, in terms of that stability component we talked about at the top. Just talk a little bit about your feelings as it relates to, maybe finally having a stable situation at the animal shelter.
Well, the shelter certainly serves an important function for us. And as we found out when we didn't have staff, there's a lot more that goes on out there than most people realize. We can improve on, now that we have somebody that is stable there, that's going to be around, that understands it, is we can enforce the ordinances better. We can track and report the rabies vaccinations better. Then when the adoptions come about, we're going to have better information on those animals of, the vaccines they've had, the history of the animals. So there's a lot of things that, when you don't have a real solid staff, and not saying that the staff before didn't do everything that they could, but I think we just kind of shorthanded them. We didn't have enough people out there. And so we're not going to make that mistake again. And having a strong leader administrator out there, I just look forward to it being a much better ran and, serve the community much better than it has in the past.
Sure. Very good. Well, Mr. Matthews, thanks for weighing in on that. That's again, Dan Matthews. He's the DeWitt County Board Chair, our guest on the phone this morning as we follow up the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting. Mr. Matthews, last month, the DeWitt County Board put a ban on CO2 injection wells in DeWitt County. Looks like more discussion on that again this week. What was the discussion about?
Well, after last meeting, you and I talked, Seth, and it seemed like a quick move to ban them, right away, right when there's so much still going on with CO2 sequestration, but shortly after that meeting, we started hearing from other groups, and one in particular that I've been following and sounding off with is the group of board chairs from our surrounding counties, Sangamon, Logan, Christian, all of those. They're all in the same position where they're wanting more information. And so really our action, and my thought before, was I didn't have enough information to say or go against that ordinance request. I felt we needed to find out more information. I think you even asked me about that. You've seen studies that say it is safe, it is this, it's been around longer than people think. But as I found out right away, I think 2 days after the meeting, Sangamon County, they have a moratorium not only on the wells, but also on all pipelines till the end of the year. And they did that too to find out more information. about it. What's happening, and we also know that there's some bills going around. There's some different, like we saw with solar and wind. The state's going to weigh in, and they're going to put limitations. What they feel is fair for these companies to come in to operate in, so that a county can't just make it impossible for someone to bring in a project like that. So really, we want to continue to look at it. And Mr. Whitty brought that up and brought up some good points. And he and I have been, as well as Mr. Carter, spent a lot of time doing it, looking into it further. And we all have our opinions about it right now, but it was more, let's slow down, let's wait and see what's going to happen, both from the state, from the federal government, and learn more about it before we, move forward one direction or the other. So it wasn't we're never going to allow. Some people on the board think that, right? Some people say we will never have these in the county. Well, we may not have a choice, but so the thing that Mr. Ferguson brought up last night is we need to put some ordinances together so that if we don't have a choice and we do end up with wells in DeWitt County, that the non-participating residents, landowners are protected. So that's our job as the county, I believe, is not to decide exactly what comes in and what comes out, but when something may come to our county, are we protecting the residents? And I feel that's our job, and that's the next step we're going to take.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to this, Mr. Matthews, so what will the county seek out professional opinion? Will they, what's kind of the next step, I guess, as you kind of explore this and, look to modify ordinances around this, and even just lifting the ban itself or modifying the ban to say towards the end, maybe, the first quarter of next year or the end of this year? Like what's kind of next, I guess, in this process? Do you lift this ban? Do you work on ordinances and then lift it? What's the process look like in your mind?
Well, I think first we work on the ordinances that surround and again protect the residents of DeWitt County. I think that's the first thing we'll start working on. But when you talk about, are we going to bring in professionals? Are we going to bring in, there's lots of opinions on both sides of it, right? So we can continue to bring people into the board, but to, give them 10, 15 minutes in a public forum isn't the best way, I don't think, to really get educated on it. So there was a gentleman from Logan County that spoke, I don't know if it was last month or the previous month, I can't remember right now, but Joe Whitty has been talking to him, following a little bit more about the information that he provided. Terry Ferguson has been working with the Illinois Farm Bureau. They're involved in this. And some of their recommendations are definitely to get our ordinances in order for it. As I said, I'm following the county group, the county board chair group that has different counties are seeing different people come into theirs, and then they're communicating what they're hearing, what they're hearing from not only the experts or, people from these other companies that are coming in to either give a positive or negative impression about the wells. So there's a lot of just information gathering going behind the scenes, and I don't think there's any reason to rush into it, making any decision about changing or bringing up another vote at this time. It's just, let's get ourselves a lot more educated before it does come back around to us.
Yeah, and Mr. Matthews, I have to confess, when this happened last month, and then I heard, I had talked with some folks from Navigator shortly after the meeting, and they mentioned to me off the air that there was a little exploration going on the board's part. She was having more conversations with board members and those sorts of things, and I have to confess, I thought to myself, you rushed into this decision to ban CO2 injection wells when it's really nothing imminent, like it's not anything that's going to happen tomorrow. I guess the question is, why did you rush into that in the first place before you knew more about the projects?
I think we could have used the term a moratorium. We could have put out, a motion to put a moratorium on the wells, maybe like Sangamon County did. I don't think there was really, the intent of it was any different other than, we past and things that have, happened to DeWitt County. I think we just wanted the public to know that we were not just going to stand by and wait to see what happened. So we wanted to take a step, the initial step, to say right now we do not want these. And so it could have been worded differently. It just looked like we said we're never going to allow these, right? Well, after that, I found out a lot of other counties have done the same thing, really, with just you can change the terminology of what we did. So I think we did the right thing at the time. But we're going to continue to explore it. And believe me, the board isn't is split on. If you asked all the board members or polled them today and said, "Do you think wells will ever be in DeWitt County?" You're not going to get a 12-0 either way. It's going to be split. So we just need to continue to educate ourselves. And you mentioned Navigator. Danielle is a good resource. She provides us a lot of information, and obviously she wants us to feel as comfortable as we can about the project. So we have a good relationship with her, and she's really been this, the spokesman all along. We've talked to different people from Navigator in and out, but Danielle, I'm sure maybe it's who you talk to as well. We have a good relationship with her, and she provides us with good information. We're just going to keep moving down that path.
Yeah, and I mean, I get the other side of this where it's like, okay, you don't want someone from Navigator, giving not you don't want it, but I could see where there's like a conflict or the appearance of a conflict where if you bring someone on from Navigator to offer specifics about the process, like you kind of want a neutral individual or party in there to offer information. And even then, I mean, obviously that's going to be an individual that advocates for this and really probably tells you a lot of the positives and, are there drawbacks, are there negatives or anything like that. So, I get that side of the argument as well. It just feels like this whole process is just rushed. I mean, I appreciate your side of how it went down. I still just think this whole thing was kind of rushed and a rash decision was made there.
That's a fair statement. I would say, this almost goes back to, maybe this time last year when Navigator first talked to us and said, hey, in February of 23, we're going to get our permitting. We're going to be back here to talk to you guys. And then all of a sudden, in January, it's like, well, the permitting's not really going the way we're going to have to resubmit all of our permits. Request. So they've changed along the way too. Their path has changed. So there's just too much unknown. And they, kind of said, well, it might be another year before we actually have our permitting to even come talk to you about this. So, something changed there too. So there's just a lot of balls in the air that, again, I think we did the right thing. And, but I think you saw last night that our minds aren't closed to learning more about it.
Yeah, one last thing, and we'll wrap this topic up. Do you think there could have been better collaboration between the two entities, Navigator and the county, and do you hope for better collaboration going forward?
I think we've given them, a lot of our time already, not just in front of the full board, but land use has talked to them. Joe and I have talked to them. Terry and I have met with them, and really any request they've had to meet with us, we've done that and listened and learned. And I think we have a good relationship with the people there now. And so it's not adversary like we've seen on some other projects. And, that's one thing we want to do. If they're going to come in, we want them to be a good community partner. And, I feel they could be.
Very good. Mr. Matthews, thank you for addressing that with us and answering those questions. That was a good conversation, I thought. Dan Matthews is the DeWitt County Board Chair, our guest on the phone this morning. We'll take a break here. More to come with Mr. Matthews on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now. The Chicago Board of Trade on this Friday. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network. Corn starting the day steady. Beans higher. Wheat slightly higher. December corn $4.75 1/4 unchanged. March corn up half a penny, $4.90 1/2. May corn $4.99 up half a penny. November beans starting the day $13 1/2 up 6 3/4. January beans up 6 1/2, $13.17 1/4. March beans $13.28 1/4 up 6. December wheat $5.78 up 2 1/4. March wheat $6.04 1/2 up 2 1/4. May wheat $6.21 1/2 up 2 1/2. October bean meal starting the day $3.92.40 up 2.10, and October bean oil $60.04 up 39 cents. That's a look at the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Friday morning. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. Mr. Dan Matthews is the DeWitt County Board Chair, our guest on the phone this morning as we follow up the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting. Mr. Matthews, let's continue the conversation talking about some non-compliance updates with the Alta Farms Wind Project. What's going on here? What can you tell us?
Well, Seth, we think there's really three areas that need to be addressed, and we just need better communication from Enel on some issues that we knew when the agreement was put together a few years ago now, that these issues were going to be probably contentious, probably be hard to evaluate, maybe hard to show non-compliance, but I think the ordinances themselves are very clear. And there's really three areas that we feel Enel is not meeting their obligation right now. And so we want to send them a letter, put them on notice that we feel they're non-compliant in three areas. And I'll just go through those quickly. The ADLS system is not operational yet. There isn't in part of the agreement that there was up to a year grace period that we would give them up to a year to get it done if necessary, if we had to extend that. Not beyond 1 year, but we really don't know where they're at. I think if you know when they started to go live, all of a sudden they had a problem with the system and didn't have the right equipment. So now we hear maybe the equipment's there, but the communication on that and where they're at with it, we don't know. Mm-hmm. So that's something that needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. Number two is the noise study. They have 12 months to complete that noise study. They were to identify 6 potential areas to do the noise study, and we've got nothing on that. So, is that being done? Is it being done? It's supposed to be done over a number of seasons, so that you see the difference between summer, winter, fall, and how that noise and vegetation, all of those things affect it. We don't feel they're doing that part. And then the third thing, it goes again with the curtailment. We had 2 events since the first event, which we did send in for non-compliance and fined them, and they agreed to pay the fine. We've had 2 since then that we feel they did not meet their obligation of automatic curtailment when a thunderstorm warning was issued, one in Logan County. And the second one was they did curtail, but did not curtail for the entirety of the event. So it's pretty black and white, the ordinance is and how it's written, but we just don't feel it's being followed. So we really want to open up the communication with them, but also say, hey, we feel you're non-compliant, and we want them to address these issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of gone MIA, it sounds like a little bit there. So hopefully that improves as well. Mr. Matthews, I hate to do this to you, my friend. I got to let you go. We'll see you this weekend at the Apple and Pork Festival. Thanks for making time for us.
Thanks, Seth.
That is DeWitt. Yeah, you do the same. That is DeWitt County Board Chair Dan Matthews. He follows up the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting with us. Always appreciate his time. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network news on the way.
WHOW.